First of all, in March this year, you wrote a letter to the Chief Minister and to the Education Minister. Can you tell me what that letter entailed?
The letter that I sent highlighted my personal situation with regards to the student finance system. So I put a lot of personal content in it about my parents' financial situation and other personal circumstances that we had. And I wrote that letter with that content to highlight to them how, in my personal situation, the system didn't work for me and it didn't help me.
In a post on social media, you said the system had actually failed you, which is quite a strong statement, I suppose. Why do you feel that?
Going to university in the UK, you see the contrast with how we are treated by the Allemande government, most with our UK peers. All my best friends at university live in the UK. Some have access to the Welsh funding system, which far outstretches ours. Others have access to the English student loan body, where they just get a big loan that covers everything. And kind of seeing that security that they had financially with their education, the fact that their parents only had to provide if they needed something and didn't have the full financial burden of £4,000 of rent a year, that kind of really highlights how the system does fail Manx students.
So Welsh students, you'll correct me on the details, have quite a heavy subsidy on their sort of costs of tuition. English students, of course, get a reasonable loan. So why do you feel that the Manx system's behind?
In the Allemande, the way that the system works is that if your household income is under £100,000, the government will give you a tuition loan. And this loan is where they cover your tuition fees and you pay £2,500 a year back instead of the full £9,500. That, for the tuition loan, is great for the long run because it means that as a Manx student, I will graduate with £7,500 worth of tuition debt as opposed to £40,000 if I lived in the UK. The real issue with the system arises when it comes to the maintenance grant, and this is the side where it's all about money for living and like contributions. So it's things like rent and kind of textbooks and things like that arise with day-to-day living. And the issue here is that the government maintenance grant is very, very restrictive. In the academic year 2017-18, so last year, only 410 students were successfully accepted for that maintenance grant.
And more than that were turned down, is that right?
There was 468 students that had their application denied, but there was 500 students who didn't even apply. And this maintenance grant is the only form of kind of living contribution and help that students on the Allemande can get. There are private bursaries and trusts, but these are also, again, very restrictive in nature. They're for certain courses, certain academic requirements. And if you're a student like me that comes from a family that aren't the most well off in the world, but on paper seem to be fine, you do really feel the pinch of not having anywhere to turn for help.
So where does your disposable income, or your not even that, your living costs, where do the funds for that come from then?
Because of the nature of the Allemande funding system, the financial burden is placed primarily on myself and my parents, so my immediate family. The maintenance grant is determined by household income, so that is how much money your parents make. And that issue is that on paper, my household income, because I have divorced parents and I live at my mum's full time, on paper my mum's household income, because it's all done on tax as well, may suggest that she does have enough disposable income between her and my stepdad, that there's no reason the government should help me. But that system, based on tax, doesn't accurately take into account the financial reality of living there. So in my household, there's 3 other dependents, there's 3 other children there. It doesn't factor into the fact that my mum pays rent, she doesn't own her own house. And these aren't all bad things, these are all things that you get in any normal family. But under this system, they're all things that are made to kind of seem like they're a problem, like there's something wrong, that because we have a larger family, because we don't own our own home, that we don't get any support.
So for people in circumstances similar to yours, what are the implications then when they go away to study?
The biggest implications are financially based. Everything stems back to how the system doesn't work. So in my situation, and lots of other people that have reached out to me have said that parents contribute as much as they can, even when they can't. I have friends that have told me stories about how her dad had to go out and get a private bank loan to be able to afford her semester's rent. And I was told by an MHK that if I was struggling, that I should approach a private bank loan, which at the age of 19 is ridiculous. It's not, a private bank loan isn't an available option for anyone. And there's other big financial burdens in the sense of there's people that have reached out to me who are 28 and going to do a degree later on in life at a postgraduate level, yet they're denied funding because at the age of 28 it's still based on their parents' income and their household income, which is ridiculous. And just because parents can on paper doesn't mean they will in reality. Not everyone has a good relationship with a parent. Not everyone wants to be funded by their parents. Students in the UK don't have this issue because their parents contribute if they can, if they want to. They have the security of knowing that their rent, that their food money, their textbooks, their travel is all provided for by their student loan. You don't get that luxury as a Manx student. You are at the mercy of your parents, which is not fair because it means that when I graduate, I might only have £7,500 worth of debt on paper, but at least £5,000, £6,000, £7,000 worth of that debt that I'd have as a UK student has been taken on by my parents.